Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Go to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, you did it, Chargers. You got me, okay? For the longest time, I have never had this opinion. 99.9999% of the time, you're going to stand firm. But you got me, Chargers, okay? Y'all better go out there, take care of business, and lose this game. Because, of course, the Tankathon finale is upon us this Sunday in a game that I think most people would agree at the start of the season, we felt the Chargers were going to lose this game. Of course, Chargers versus Kansas City Chiefs. Especially as the season was going down in 2023 with how badly the team was performing. I think a lot of us maybe thought this game was going to be a pretty easy wrap-up for the Kansas City Chiefs. Then, lo and behold, the Chiefs, they secured the number 3 seed in the playoffs for the AFC, and now they're looking at resting their starters, and boy, oh boy, we got a football game. But do we want a football game, Bull fam? I don't know. I think for the sense of pride, yes, there's always going to be this part of me that says go out there and whoop the Chiefs no matter what, okay? I don't care if we go from pick number 5 to pick number 8. Let's go beat them Chiefs, even if it's the backups. But the other part of me, man, in a year that's so important, with the Chargers bringing in a brand new head coach, maybe even Jim Harbaugh, being able to pair a top 5 pick, which is pretty likely with a loss here, with the top 5 quarterback of Justin Herbert, pretty enticing to a guy like Jim Harbaugh. And honestly, whoever coaches this team going forward into the future, that is a huge tool to build your squad into next season and seasons to come, okay? Especially in this particular draft class, just kind of loaded with talent, much better draft class than the last couple of seasons. Yeah, man, you got me, Chargers. Let's see what we can do with Easton Stick out there on Sunday. So we're going to go through this game, mainly the repercussions of what happens with the win or loss, but also some of the stuff that we're hearing around the NFL, because as the season's coming to a close, which is definitely painful in its own way, even with how painful the season's been, there's a lot of hype and narrative and momentum going into 2023 that we're going to continue to cover here on this channel, okay? So before we do jump into it, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Make sure to take advantage of these sweet, precious last few weeks of the NFL. Use code DIRECTOR to match you first deposit up to $100. Get in on the action, get your feet wet, get ready for future endeavors with Underdog Fantasy. And for you newcomers, definitely make sure to take advantage of these last few special offers in the NFL. This one being Josh Allen coming up on Sunday. Before we kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time. You guys take the like, sub, and bell notification. Helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action. Your Chargers versus Chiefs tanking finale game preview. Not much to say much on here, guys. Before we even get into any of that, and we're going to continue doing this until we get an answer who is going to be the next head coach for the Chargers. We're going to go on Harbaugh watch. Pretty much every week. I know there's a lot of other candidates, okay? I've been getting a lot of flack saying, Director, what if we live in a reality where we don't get Jim Harbaugh? We have to start hyping up other guys, like Ben Johnson and Bill Belichick and some of these other candidates and Dan Quinn. Why aren't we hyping up Dan Quinn? I'm not hyping up Dan Quinn. Lord, help us if that ends up being the case. Of course, we're going to make do with what we got, but I think it's very important that we follow this narrative as closely as possible. And I said this in my last video, this could be one of the biggest developments in franchise history for the Chargers. Some of you guys may say, it's being blown out of proportion, of course, whatever. But this particular head coach in this particular situation doesn't happen very often. I would say not often at all. And to turn around a Chargers organization overnight, there's very few things that could ever happen in the next 100 years that's better than hiring Jim Harbaugh. And I do firmly believe that the Chargers are the top contender for it. So we're going to continue monitoring that as we get closer to January 8th, the national championship, in which I think afterwards we're going to start hearing a little bit more about Jim Harbaugh and his decision to go into the NFL, staying in Michigan, and if going to the NFL, where is he going to go? The latest that we've heard, a couple of different things. These articles coming in from different sources. We did hear some stuff, I think on the Rich Eisen show earlier this morning, talking about how it's pretty apparent that Jim Harbaugh is going to the NFL. He did throw the Raiders name out there at first, but also the Chargers as a stronger contender. Definitely something interesting, but mainly putting to the point that the hiring of the NFL agent is a big tell right there. There's unfinished business in terms of a Super Bowl over here, and of course we're not going to hear much until after the national championship, as he's definitely got his hands full there. Then we've been hearing stuff like this. I don't remember where this one came in from. I think it was a Washington Post something. Anyway, it says here at the bottom that talking about Justin Herbert, Johnson will have a lot of steam for this opening. I think they're talking about Ben Johnson here, and him sharing an agent with Staley shouldn't be an issue. However, at the very bottom is what we're going to highlight. Harbaugh badly wants this job, but so do a lot of people. If that's true, man, and what we're hearing on both sides, that Harbaugh badly wants the job, that's kind of what we've been waiting to hear, because we've already heard how badly the Chargers want Jim Harbaugh. It might just be, going through the motions at this point, waiting for the national championship. Maybe Harbaugh feels good about having that set up for himself afterwards. Exciting stuff right there. And then obviously the clip I posted at the top of this video, definitely something exciting to look at here. It's kind of confirming rumors that we heard forever ago, stuff that I posted from back in September, that the Chargers had indeed been talking in some way, shape, or form with the Los Angeles Chargers and Jim Harbaugh. It's all kind of coming together now, man. So get excited, ride the hype. This is something worth getting invested in, supporting, and just blasting the internet with as much as possible, because the more we talk about it, the more the big heads talk about it, the more, maybe the ownership and the people making the decisions talk about it, and hopefully it does result in what we're all hoping and dreaming for, in Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers. All right? So with that, let's jump into this game a little bit, man, because, of course, Jim Harbaugh, whoever may be the future coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, would like to know what they're going or getting into in terms of draft capital. And I think that's mainly your biggest storyline of this week. What are the Chargers doing, or what I should say, the Chargers working with in terms of draft capital if they win or lose this game? So the first thing I kind of want to throw out there into the foreground, of course, let's take a look at some of the injuries. Of course, you're not going to see a lot of Chargers big names out there. We don't want to risk it. Keenan Allen's going to be out. Joey Bosa is going to be out. Nick Williams going to be out, even though he's a vet. But yeah, a lot of Chargers big names I would expect not to be in this game, just because obviously this is not going to be one that's with a lot on the line. Want to avoid injury as much as possible. However, there are some names on here worth monitoring. I want to see Dan Henley get more snaps this week. In terms of young players, I want to see them wherever I can. A big name that we didn't see at all this season, which I'm perplexed about, is JT Woods, third rounder for the Chargers. Safety at a position kind of need. I need to see some reps, bro. I need to see something in a live NFL environment, even versus a backup team, even in a kind of a preseason environment game this upcoming Sunday. What's up? What's up with JT Woods? Dude's got the height, the speed, the build. He's got a lot of upside. We don't know. We don't know anything other than last season, which was kind of poo-poo, This season, we need to see some sort of sample size. So hopefully we get that in this last-ditch effort versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Other guys you might actually be seeing this week, Thule may be questionable. Don't want to see him injured. I don't know. It's just Josh Palmer, Zion Johnson, et cetera, et cetera. Again, just kind of keep an eye out for who's out there, especially in these backup roles and young roles. I want to see these young guys that have something at stake for next season in terms of a roster spot do something, even if it's against a backup team. As for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think this is pretty old news. Do we have a photo of it? Chiefs are going to be resting their starters. I don't know if you guys have heard this. Been all over Twitter. I think in mainly the terms of the narrative of the Chargers kind of need a loss here. And so resting the starters maybe doesn't help that case. Either way, I want to put this sentiment forward because sometimes it goes forgotten. Of course, the Chiefs are not going to go out there and play some of their biggest players like Patrick Mahomes. I think Travis Kelce isn't playing. There's a rumor that he's only a few yards away from 1,000, so maybe he goes out there and finishes it out. But even when resting your starters, you have to field a team. Does that make sense? You got to get guys out there. And you're not going to have enough moves and enough, practice squad guys come and fill the entire roster. So you're going to see a good number of starters for the Kansas City Chiefs out there, just kind of running through the motions, because you got to be able to field a team, right? Of course, these backups and secondary are going to be out there primarily starting this week, but you're going to have some guys here and there from your starters because, of course, you just don't have the personnel to fill an entire another team out there on the field, okay? So for this game in particular, I would expect Chris Jones not to suit up. Isaac Pacheco, he's questionable. Probably not going to suit up. You want to make sure that he's healthy for the playoffs. Rashee Rice, Snead, out. Travis Kelce, I would assume is going to be out. Chance that he goes in to finish out his 1,000-yard season. I don't know how many of that is for his career. Tony is out. So they got a lot of wide receivers out, which is definitely interesting. Blake Bell, they're going to need him at tight end. He should be playing. Nick Bolton, questionable. Probably want to make sure he sits out. Noah Gray is probably going to be playing. Of course, Mahomes is out. I would sit Trent McDuffie if I were them. Donovan Smith is out. Karlaftis is probably going to be out. And Michael Dana is probably going to be out. So a lot of big names. I would say you have enough space to sit some of your biggest dudes that you don't want out there risking injury. And then a lot of these other guys you may see out there for the Chiefs this Sunday. Okay? So let's go ahead and just kind of, I don't know. It's not going to be a super long segment this week talking about the backups of the Chiefs versus the backups of the Chargers. More so the repercussions of what could happen in this game and what I think ultimately could happen in terms of a win or loss here. Okay? So first off, battle of the backups again. All right? The Chargers, since starting Easton Stick, have seen a slew of backups. Not that it's helped our case too much. I think the Chargers, in terms of passion, love of the sport, reviving of the energy, have looked better under leadership of Giff Smith, interim head coach of the Chargers. We've seen a lot more life in this team since passing on from Brandon Staley, but it hasn't helped on the win column too much, even though that part to me doesn't matter as much, right? What I needed to see was that this team was still capable in some way, shape, or form, and they're proving that. You know, a close game with the Bills was definitely proof of that. Last week, you would have liked to see them beat the Denver Broncos, but it did position us for a better spot in the draft. I'm starting to wonder, you know, like, are we tanking? I don't know. We'll answer that here in just a minute. Battle of the backups. Expect to see a backup version of the Chiefs versus a backup version of the Chargers. Which one is going to edge out the other? It's hard to say. It really, really is. The last time this happened with the Chargers, I think was 2021. They rested their starters, Kansas City did, after clinching a playoff spot. And the Chargers did go out there and beat them up. I think at the time it was Chad Henne, their backup quarterback. He lost that match. I think he went 218 yards. Excuse me, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Not a bad game for the backup. But, of course, the Chargers did have Justin Herbert in that game. We were running out there with our starters, okay? But just kind of keep that in mind. That being said, what do we expect in this game? Backup quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be Blaine Gabbert. Yes, that Blaine Gabbert. I remember this guy getting drafted, blowing up on the Jags in a bad way, and then just kind of floating around as a backup for the longest time. He hasn't had a start, I think, since 2018. Pushing 6 years, bro. And now we're taking a look here at the new Blaine Gabbert with the Kansas City Chiefs, who honestly, who knows what's going to happen. His last game, he threw for 165 yards, a touchdown, and I think 2 interceptions. It could be a completely different story here, because one of the biggest things that separate backup teams, I guess, or this situation is the coaching. You see it in preseason all the time, too. The coaching going out there, kind of looking around, putting their players in situations so that they can learn, you know, from their performance. But for the most part, a good coach is going to bring victory to any team in any situation. And at this point, I think that is a big edge for the Chiefs. However, the Chargers will likely have more starter quality players out there on the field. That's going to make Blaine Gabbert's life a little bit more difficult. All right, because the defense, you're probably still going to see Derwin James. Who knows? You're probably still going to see Asante Samuel. You're probably still going to see maybe Thule, maybe Mack, right? There's going to be some big NFL, you know, starter caliber defensive players out there against Blaine friggin' Gabbert. And I think that is why at this point, the Kansas City Chiefs here are the underdogs. I think the Chargers defense is going to be, you know, out there with some firepower, even though the offense maybe isn't as lethal. Yes, you have, you know, Austin Eckler, Josh Palmer, who's pretty good. Gerald Everett was pretty good. Outside of that, you know, I don't know. I think the defense that's kind of skewing things this week. But if I were the Chiefs, I would go into this week with one game plan and one game plan only, and it's to get in, get out, and try and stay healthy as much as possible. Because, yes, you may need your backups in the playoffs, okay? You don't want to risk it without, you know, good cause for it. And to do that, I think on offense, it's going to be less about Blaine Gabbert. And it's going to be more about the running back. We have the wide receiver in here. We're going to keep that up there for a second because I don't think we're going to need too much time on this. What I'm going to say is I think if I'm the Chiefs, I'm running the ball a lot, right? Chew the clock, get out with minimal injuries. And to do that, you got a couple of options in there. I think there was a couple of practice squad guys that I failed to write down, but I think you're going to see a lot of LaMichael Pirine. I think the third string running back for the Chiefs this week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire could see some more looks. Maybe just kind of get him in game shape a little bit more. I know he's been getting more carries lately, but get him ready for the postseason just in case, too. He could see some carries. But for the most part, I think you're going to see a lot of LaMichael Pirine. Don't know much about this, I'll be honest. I don't know much about a lot of these backup Chiefs players, but I would assume that the Chiefs are going to run it a lot, in which case they may find some success. The Chargers have not been a great run defense in a minute, outside of, I think, our edge players, honestly, dude. I feel like Thule and Khalil Mack have been pretty nice on the edge in defending the run. Outside of that, the interior has been pretty bad, and the numbers have been not so great for our defense. So who knows what's going to happen? That's going to be the game plan for me if I'm Andy Reid. Let's go out there and run it as much as possible. Don't worry too much about the win and kind of see what happens in terms of how quickly we can get out of this game. But I would say a big strength and why I have this photo set up here for the Chiefs is, in terms of their backups, is probably going to be the receivers. And it's something that, honestly, I think I'm seeing a little chatter about from Chiefs fans. They have these players deeper on their depth chart that they've been wanting to see more reps. Because, honestly, y'all got a problem at receiver, dude. You know, what was his name? The tall, fast guy that keeps dropping every friggin' pass. Kadarius Toney's dropping a bunch of passes. It was a Marquez Valdes-Scantling, right? Was it Rashee Rice who's going to be out? I know he's got some injury concerns. The only good receiver right now that you guys have. You guys have a problem at receiver. But there's a couple of intriguing names, I would say, at least in my perspective, deeper on the depth chart for the Chiefs, so they could get some reps this week. That being Richie James, who I think's a fantastic weapon, nimble, fast, decent route runner. I think that's something that if he pans out, he may end up emerging as an option for the Chiefs in the postseason. The less likely option is going to be this guy Justin Ross, who, yes, I think he's been injured most this season, if I remember correctly. I think he went down pretty early. But what I'm hearing is that, at least what I saw on Twitter earlier, was that he could be coming back for this game. And I think this may be one of the most anticipated players for Chiefs fans to see get any reps, because Justin Ross has a lot of upside for a late-round pick. So keep your eye out for those guys. If anything, it'll help Blaine Gabbert out in terms of his passing. I think those two guys have maybe some sneaky potential. But again, they're going up against the Chargers, mainly starting secondary, which is going to be a lot tougher than, going up against our backups as well. Then finally, the defense for the Chiefs. Again, I don't know these people, man. It's going to be Easton Stick, who's been looking fine. But I don't know who to expect this Sunday for the Chiefs. Maybe we see Drew Tranquil as like another revenge game situation for him. Maybe they're just trying to, fill out, their roster, for their active roster for Sunday. But you're probably going to see guys like Leo Chenal and Nick Jones and some of these backups that we just don't know much about, okay? Now, for the Chargers, what that means for them going up against the backups of the Chiefs have been a really, really good defensive team, and the Chargers have not been a great offensive team this year. So maybe they meet somewhere in the middle here, where the okay Easton Stick offense meets a pretty well-coached backup defense of the Kansas City Chiefs. And maybe it kind of evens things out a bit. I'm sure all of them, heads at Vegas, the betting people, have thought all this stuff through. And the backup's here and the coaching. I get that it's probably all been thought out. But just me and my personal, perspective here, I think it's just a coin flip at this point. Who knows who's going to win this game? You got edges on both sides, starters on one side, better coaching on the other. I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. The only thing that I think the Chargers can control in this situation is whether or not they tank. And a lot of you guys will say, and I kind of agree with this, actually. I'm going to speak with you guys on this one. Teams don't tank in the NFL, okay? But directed, I know there's a lot of situations where it seems like that happens, and maybe it does here and there, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like something that they do, right? And I don't know if it's something the Chargers would be willing to do on Sunday. I think they're going to go out and play it like any other game and just try to end the year on a high note. It's been a really crappy 2023 season. However, on the other side of the coin there, honestly, I can't believe I'm at this point because, again, it's the Chiefs. I've never, ever held the opinion that I wanted to lose any football game with the Chargers. But with the transition coming up this season and the new coach and everything, my opinion's been changed. Yeah, secretly, I want a better draft pick. Because it's not just going from 24 to 17 or 28 to 24 or 23. It's going from 8 to 5. Okay? And I understand some of the talent that we want could still be available at 8. I think there's some great players that could be available there, like Brock Bowers, and I think more specifically Kool-Aid McKinstry and stuff like that. There's going to be some great talent at 8. But 5? 5 is when the possibilities open up. 5 is when, lo and behold, options are found in abundance. And where the wildness of the NFL draft could benefit the Chargers. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough incentive to change the hearts and minds of the Los Angeles Chargers this week, too. Maybe Easton Stick on that last fourth quarter drive, touchdown wins it all, says, you know what? We're going to float it a little bit to the right. I can't believe we're at this point, dude. But this is why it's so important. Let's go ahead and close out this video with, by far, the biggest repercussion of this game. It's going to be your draft position. Now, right now, the Chargers, as of week 17 going on 18, possess the number 6 pick in the NFL draft. The 6th pick gets you a lot of options, man. I think all of a sudden Malik Neighbors is an option at 6. Maybe a little bit of a stretch at 6, but he's still an option. I think he's completely gone by 8, right? You got some big players there, including, I know some people hate to say it, but it would be a solid pick in terms of value. A guy like Joe Alt, man, like one of the most sure bet tackles we've ever seen. You know, like having Justin Herbert with Slater on one side, not on the other side. Like, you got to feel good about that. But that's only if you're picking that high, okay? And it's not going to end here. What's beautiful about this last game and how it shakes out is that the Chargers, in my personal opinion, could either end in the top 5, maybe even 4, who knows? Or at very worst, I think they're going to be pick 8 or 9. Okay, either way, I think the Chargers have secured themselves a top 10 pick, which is exciting. That is something great to work with. But here is why a loss here may be more beneficial to the Chargers than a win. So first off, keep in mind who's up next to us. Okay, let me actually make this a little bigger for you guys over there. Nah, that actually looks pretty good. In front of us is the New York Giants. Okay, let's start with them. New York Giants, right? This team in week 18 are playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I get it. Director, never say never. The Eagles, they just lost to the Arizona Cardinals. They're exploding. They're imploding. That entire program is falling to a crumble. It's still the Eagles. I am definitely going to bet my edge my bet on the case that the Eagles take down the New York Giants, okay? So in my opinion, I think the Giants, at very worst, are going to have a top 5 pick, okay? But what about behind us, the Tennessee Titans? Okay, Tennessee Titans, they go out there and they lose to a Jacksonville team. I also think that they're pushed up in and around the same realm as the Giants. So imagine that the Giants have pick number 5, the Titans have pick number 6, and the Chargers all of a sudden here are at pick number 7, and what happens in our game determines where we go. Okay? I think at that point, in terms of strength of schedule, if I'm not mistaken, it would go to the would it go to the Chargers? I think it would just barely go to the Chargers over the Titans if we both lose, I think, which should keep the Chargers in and around the realm of pick number 6. I can live with that if we lose, okay? But there is a world where the Chargers, or I should say the Tennessee Titans, do win, okay? Trevor Lawrence is banged up. I don't think that's a secret. And they're starting Ryan Tannehill, who may see his last game as a Titan ever, and he's not a bad quarterback, okay? There's a possibility that they win that game. And that's where the chaos starts to surround this situation. Tennessee Titans win, go 6-10, or I should say 6-11. Then the Chargers, with a loss, are definitely in the top 6, almost guaranteed. And then maybe, just maybe, you have a chance at something a little bit higher. Because look at all this, man. You got the strength of schedule here. Who knows if the Cardinals go out there and win another game, right? The Cardinals, what's their last game right here? Seattle? You never know what those AFC, or I should say NFC West matchups. New England, I think they're playing the Jets this week. That's got repercussions on both sides. If New England goes out there and wins somehow, which again, the Jets, you could, right? You could win that game, another division matchup. That pushes the Arizona Cardinals up to 5-12. If the Chargers are at 5-12 as well, then it's kind of up to strength of schedule. And I think, let's see, the lower number wins, right? I think the Chargers, in terms of strength of schedule, would be better in terms of the draft position than the Arizona Cardinals. We should be rooting for them to go beat the Jets. But there's a double-edged sword to that. If the Jets lose and go 6-11, and the Chargers win and go 6-11, then maybe it pushes us out to pick number 9. This is the chaos I'm talking about. This is the chaos. The only way that the Chargers, in my opinion, secure a top 6, it may be 7. We'll say secure a top 7 pick is if we lose this game. If we win, I think we go up as high as 9, in which a lot of elite talent is probably out of reach, but you never know. Me personally, in a year where we're about to get a new head coach, in a year where we're kind of flipping everything out on its head, in a year where we maybe get Jim Harbaugh, I want that draft pick, man. I want a top 6 draft pick, a top 5 draft pick. It's a possibility. I'm going to say this one more time. It's a possibility. It really, really is. With like the stretch furthest imagination, if the Giants win and the Cardinals win and the Tennessee Titans win and the Patriots win, there is the smallest chance that the Chargers go top 3. It's not. It's probably not, but that exists. But within that, the margins of pick number 3 and pick number 9, there's a lot of possibilities in between, and that's where I expect the Chargers to end up somewhere. And it's that range that, honestly, I think, and again, a lot of us have differing opinions, and I don't think you can really go wrong at this point. I want that difference maker for my new coach. And for me right now, it's Brock Bowers. I think that's the most realistic pick for us right now. If it's between Bowers and Neighbors, I'm still edging Bowers a little bit because I like the potential there, but Neighbors, in my opinion, I think would be a better pick, which would be a huge player for this team as well. Either way, you're setting up your new coach, your new 2024 team, off to a really good start. A really good start in flipping that offense over a little bit. Okay? And I want that. I'm sorry. Just imagining Justin Herbert with either Neighbors or Bowers is insane. It's insanity. That unlocks so much from different perspectives. Brock Bowers helps you out vertically so much from a tight end position that shouldn't see as much speed as he's providing, as well as blocking that we've desperately needed from the tight end position. And then Neighbors. I'm not going to go out here and say he's Tyreek Hill. He's not, okay? And he's not that fast either. He's not slow, definitely not slow. He's fast, but he's not Tyreek Hill next level elite fast. But the playmaking ability, it's hard not to see that big playability in Malik Neighbors, dude. And the Chargers just haven't had that. It maybe reminds me a little bit of like Deebo Samuel a little bit or something too. Like just what the ability, the burst, the speed, something completely foreign to this team for the longest time. And he has the potential to be the Chargers' new wide receiver 1 in the future. Like a fast Keenan Allen, right? And again, when I say he's not Tyreek Hill, he's not slow, right? He's going to run a very good 40. He is. A lot of people compare him to Antonio Brown, right? Who definitely wasn't that slow. But I think he would be faster than Antonio Brown. But that's the kind of upside that we're talking about here. It's exciting. It's exciting to think about. And a lot of it rests on what happens on Sunday. The chaos is going to get crazy out here, man. I know it was probably hard to follow in terms of like, well, if these guys win and we lose here, blah, 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 blah. I get it. It's probably tough. But at the end of the day, the Chargers might be able to seal this deal for themselves if there's talks in the background about, you know what, this season was a wash anyway. Let's make the final sacrificial lamb to the football gods in a loss here. Burn every Brandon Staley memorabilia in the building. Start fresh with Jim Harbaugh. And get ourselves a top 5 pick, baby. I think that would be crazy. I think that'd be crazy. Well, here we are, guys, 2023, and already putting stuff out there that I never thought I would ever say on a public platform, be it even a 50,000 sub Chargers channel. We're not even 50,000 subs yet, guys. Hit that sub button if you made it this far. Dang. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. My final score prediction for this game is going to be, unfortunately, I got the Chargers winning this one 16-9. However, you never know what's going to happen. Let me know what your guys' score prediction is in the comment section below. Guys, again, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. As always, bolt up, stay frosty. Get ready for the final draft position video. That'll be coming out very soon after the game, as well as just glued eyes to the college football championship game. We're going to see what's going on with the Wolverines. Go Wolverines, by the way. If you guys want Jim Harbaugh, I weirdly edge it out to rooting for the Wolverines so we can get that natty. Move on to wanting a Super Bowl ring. And then we're going to be absolutely on top of every moment leading up to who the Chargers' next head coach is going to be. Much love to you guys. Bolt up and stay frosty.